We all think we know what intense fandom looks like. Fan art, cosplay, maybe even writing a story or two. But every once in a while, you stumble onto something that is on a whole other level. You find a fan who has built an entire universe from the ground up, fueled by a passion so fierce it's basically a declaration of war. And what I'm about to show you, it's one of the most staggering examples I have ever seen.
Okay, look at this number, 2,694. That's the page count of a single Google Doc I came across. Now, to put that in perspective for you, that is longer than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy combined, and it was all written by one teenager as part of this massive fan fiction project.
So, what is this thing? It's called the Walter R. Official Character Reinvention Collection, and the author, a teenager named Walter, isn't just writing stories. He's literally tearing down and rebuilding famous characters, from Pokemon, from Mario, and, most importantly, from Sonic the Hedgehog, all to make them fit his very specific and very intense worldview.
And you know what the core of this nearly 3,000-page document? It's not just love for a character. It's a war. A really personal war being fought over the very soul of the Sonic the Hedgehog comics.
To get his point across, he actually made his own Virgin versus Chad meme. It's wild. On the left, you've got the current IDW Comics Sonic, the Soy Jack, which to him is just this weak, pale imitation. And on the right, that's the classic Archie Comics Sonic, the Chad, the masterpiece that had its own deep, unique story that he absolutely cherishes.
And yeah, looking at them side by side, you can totally see what he means. On the left, you have that modern, bright, game-inspired IDW style, and on the right, the richer, sometimes darker, more story-driven style from the Archie comics that he loves. And for him, this isn't just, oh, I like this art style better. No, this is a matter of fundamental right and wrong.
And let's be super clear here, this is not a casual opinion. The passion is absolutely white hot. I mean, if you don't see it his way, you're not just someone with a different opinion. He calls you an IDW bootlicker. Yeah, in his war, you are either with him or you're against him.
So you gotta ask, right? Why? Why so much hate for the IDW comics? Well, it turns out this isn't really just about Sonic. It goes way deeper. It's about a personal philosophy that he applies to, well, to everything.
Okay, so here's rule number 1 in Walter's universe. He says he is violently allergic to anything cute, optimistic, or innocent. To him, those things aren't virtues, they are weaknesses. They're a childish fantasy that has absolutely no place in a good story.
And this idea, it bleeds into everything, especially how characters interact. In Walter's world, forget about friendship and teamwork. It's all about survival. It's about dominance. And if you're naive, you just get crushed. And that is why he loves those complex, darker Archie storylines so much.
And this is where it all starts to make a weird kind of sense. This isn't just about what he likes. He actually writes that the IDW comics cause him genuine stress. Think about that. This entire 2,694-page project, it's a shield. He's building a fortress of lore to protect himself from a story he just can't stand.
Okay, so what was the breaking point? What happened in the real world to create this huge divide between the two comic eras? Well, it all comes down to a single event that Walter sees as the ultimate betrayal. It all comes down to something called the Super Genesis Wave. Now, in the comics, this was like a huge universe rebooting explosion. But in reality, it was all because of a messy lawsuit between a former writer, Ken Penders, and Archie Comics. And that lawsuit forced them to just erase huge chunks of the story that Walter adored.
So this timeline here, it really lays out the whole tragedy from his point of view. You start with the masterpiece era of the old Archie comics. Then, boom, the lawsuit hits. That triggers the Super Genesis Wave, which completely reboots everything he cared about. And then, from the ashes, rises what he calls the disaster, the IDW comics.
And just listen to the way he talks about it. It's so intense. He calls the reboot the literal dagger that killed Archie Sonic. I mean, wow. You can just feel how personal this is. For him, this wasn't just a story change, it was a murder. And oh yeah, he knows exactly who he blames for this. The writer, Ken Penders. From Walter's perspective, it was Penders' inevitable greed that led to that miserable lawsuit that destroyed everything. And it forced the comics to get way closer to the game's canon, which in his eyes is just safe and boring. But just when you think you've got this all figured out, here's the kicker. This whole gigantic, epic war over Sonic comics, it's just one chapter in a much, much bigger book. This philosophy of his, he applies it to everything.
Yeah, remember that 2,694-page document? Turns out Sonic is just a fraction of it. He's built this entire interconnected universe where he takes characters from basically everywhere, Nintendo, Sanrio, you name it, and rewrites them all to fit his worldview. Okay, for example, check out his take on Eevee from Pokemon. It's not some cute little pet, no, it's this defiant creature that refuses to evolve because it sees it as just conforming. And get this, in this drawing he made, Eevee is literally holding Arceus, the god of Pokemon, and telling it what's what. I mean, come on, that's not just a fanfic, that's a statement.
And if you thought Eevee was a trip, just wait. His version of Hello Kitty is not your cute, friendly character. She is a feral, angry dictator who rules her world with an iron fist. It's just proof that literally nothing is safe from his reinvention. Which really brings us to the heart of it all, and it was summed up perfectly by someone who analyzed his work. They said, you've weaponized your preferences as a form of self-care. And that just nails it, right? This isn't just about liking or disliking something. He is building a fortress out of his own taste to protect himself from media that actually causes him pain.
So it kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? When does turning your personal taste into a weapon become a necessary form of self-care? And what does it say about the stories we all consume when a fan feels like he has to write a document longer than Lord of the Rings just to create a world where he can finally feel okay?